Okay, now this should be working because I've done it the old way. You know, sometimes you just have to do it the old way, and we'll see what has happened. Okay, okay, to avoid confusion, I need to delete that one that was just there. And live chat. Hi, Mega Leech. Okay, getting this happening. Okay, one interesting thing. Hey, Charlie. I noticed for that brief abortive attempt at using a new thing YouTube's trying to interest me in. Hey, Toby. Is that there's not as much of a time delay on that XSplit Broadcaster. If I can ever get it to actually work, that would be a good thing. The time delay on that seemed to only be a couple seconds, as opposed to, excuse me, as opposed to about 10-second time delay on this. Toby, you caught Celtic King masturbating. That doesn't seem like a difficult thing to do. From what Celtic King tells us, he spends a lot of time masturbating it. It would almost be difficult to not catch him masturbating. Hey, Aussie Brick Chick, I tried to use a new feature on YouTube and it wouldn't work for me. So I killed that and started again. Oh, so yes, I haven't done any videos this week because I started a new job, and I'm not used to the rigors of it. I've been tired all week, but I thought I've been away long enough. I should get back into the fray, as it were. Luke, hiya. I am doing fine, thank you. As I said, apart from being a little bit tired, but that's all okay. We'll see how long ago. You know, if the interaction keeps me awake tonight. Toby, yes, you're right. It's a surprise. It's your first time catching him. Honestly, no. Yeah, Aussie Brick Chick. I might try again another time because it just got stuck. The audio was coming through with much less delay than normal, but it was just displaying this image saying enable XSplit Broadcaster, and no idea what that means, basically. So, yes. Okay, so that one's gone. I'm just cleaning things up. That's the one that I got rid of, and we're live here now, and all is well with the world. It's a weird, surprisingly warm day today. Because what are we now? You know, we're getting towards the end of March. You know, we've been in autumn for a little while, and we have the nights are cooler. But yeah, today got really warm in the afternoon, like over 30 Celsius, which is not unheard of, but slightly surprising. Huh? Catching Celtic King. Was he watching one of my videos or watching AZ? But no, Toby tells us it's a photo of someone you don't know. So there you go. Honestly, dude, I reckon I'd be more comfortable with a photo of someone I don't know rather than a photo of someone I did know. Because yeah, I reckon that would just get a bit weird right there. Just a little bit weird. But you know, we like it a little bit weird. You know, what's the problem with weird? Weird is fine. Yes, we just don't want it to be, oh, well, how can we put it? Criminal. We don't want it to be criminal. Weird is fine. Criminal, no, not so fine. So Yes, I'm just checking on the socials if the message has gone out to the world that we are live. And it seems okay. Oh my word, Toby, that is a positive attitude. That if he was masturbating to a picture of you, you take it. Obviously, that's a compliment. Depending on context, possibly creepy and very wrong. But yeah, in other contexts, as you say, perfectly fine and flattering. But yes, it's a strange and mysterious world we live in, with all sorts of look, I've got some things in the mail. I think this is stuff you signed me up for, Toby, beyond today. But one came from America, and I opened it because I thought it might have even been a DVD. And if it was a DVD, I wanted to watch it before a live stream, so I could review it for everyone. But it's books. It's books. These people are into look how God's kingdom will come. The untold story. Except it's told. Oh man. I don't know if you see a little chapter heading in there, says the little flock. I initially saw it as the little fuck, which, that's on me. The coming city. They've got a weird use of quotation marks. Well, the Antichrist gets a look in. I'd like to read about the Antichrist, see what I'm up to. Hey, Jatma, and hey, Pat. Yes, indeed. I know the AFL starts tonight. First game of the new season of men's AFL. Not sure about other codes like rugby league. It's time to get a Netflix subscription. Yeah. Funny thing is, because I have a Foxtel cable subscription, and I've got like the Ultra package, which includes all these sport channels that I literally never watch. Be very frustrating to sport heads, I think, that I have all these channels. Like, I mean, there's like a dozen of them, and particularly for AFL type peoples, the thing with every game and whatnot, and I literally never watch them. So this package is from the Reformed Church of God. I wonder what the Restored Church of God. Does that mean it burnt down at one point? Wow, and apparently these guys have given away over 120 million books, booklets, magazines, videos, and more. And some of them to me. Some of them to me. Ooh. Oh my God, that's tempting. They have a phone number. They have a phone number. I have some credit on my mobile. Man, the temptation to call that on a live stream is pretty high, quite honestly, just to see what they're like. You're right, Tendo, that is a lot of... Look at this. This is a whole book. Oh, it's this dude again. I've had this dude on other stuff. Look, you think I should call them? Where's my phone? It's not even here. Oh, well. Maybe I should. With the... Joe, speaking of church, I've talked about killing God. Redcliffe Uniting has a theme, killing God. That's an interesting thing. That just makes me think of makes me think of a few things. Kylo Ren in the Last Jedi with "Let the past die, kill it if you have to." And also, I still haven't seen the TV series Preacher, but I have all the comics that it's based on. And there's a character which, from a preview I saw, is in this season of Preacher, a character called the Saint of Killers. Geez, I could tell you a big spoiler about him. But the central thing, which I think they introduce the Saint of Killers, if he's the same as the comics, he is unkillable. Which, you know, is bad news for literally anyone or any entity he goes up against. In the context of Preacher, he's after Jesse, which is not good news for Jesse. But in the comics, Jesse is not the only person the Saint of Killers goes after. And basically, if he goes after you, you're in very big trouble. Yeah, so he's like, oh, cowboy. They probably won't do his origin story on Preacher because it would be too much of the TV show. But maybe they will, because he had, after he'd been in the comic for a while, there's a special issue where it gave his origin story. And his origin story, he's a cowboy type. He's from the 1800s in the West. And, you know, he's a big, bad dude. And his family got sick. His family got scarlet fever or something. And he went to a town to try to get medicine, but some bad mans had taken over the town, and he couldn't get medicine. And after a fight, they killed him. And he went to hell because he was not a good person. But when he was in hell, he disrupted hell because these people in the town didn't just kill him, they caused the death of his family, and he holds a grudge, and his hate burns very cold. And in fact, the cold hate he was radiating in hell was stronger than the powers of hell. He actually put out the fires of hell. And the angel of death happened to be visiting with the devil at that point when this happened, and they worked out that this guy was responsible for putting out the fires of hell. And the devil tortured him in all these ways to try and get him to change, but this was not a guy who changed. And he said he didn't even know how to. He didn't know how to give away his anger. And he eventually, yeah, hell froze over. He put out the fires of hell. Hell froze over. And the angel of death, who was actually sick of his job because humans were getting too good at causing death, and the angel of death could actually see the future, and he knew how much death was coming in the 20th century, particularly, and he was sick of it, and he didn't want to have to be part of it. So he basically passed a bunch of his powers to this guy and said, hey, you're the Saint of Killers now. You reap all the dead on Earth. And he was fine so long as it let him, the first ones, to go back to this town and kill the people who had killed him. And yes, they he's a supernatural entity. Jhatma, this is a comic from the 90s called Preacher, which is now a TV show. Written by, I think the writer, Garth Ennis. Was Garth Ennis the artist? I'm trying to remember. No, Glenn Fabry was one of the, I think it was Garth Ennis, who was a writer from the UK, originally wrote for the 2000 AD comics that I was really into. Tendai, the storyline in Preacher in the comics gets pretty dark. Besides the Saint of Killers wandering around, there's a secret society. It's basically based on the. It's very similar to the story that was the basis of Dan Brown's book, The Da Vinci Code, Secret Catholic Orders, and this particular Catholic order was responsible for preserving the bloodline of Christ, which is a secret they're keeping from everyone, that through the millennia they'd actually kept producing offspring from Christ and they preserved the bloodline. Tara, painting your iPhone screen with nail polish. Messy. But yes, this secret society run by a secret sect in the Vatican that is controlling all world events. It's basically your classic conspiracy of the secret society. Oh, Megaleech, the show. When is the show set? Is the show set in the modern day, or is it set in the 1990s? Because a central thing in the comic, which was published in the 90s, it was tying up to the turn of the millennium. A major event was going to happen at the turn of the millennium. So I don't know, is the TV show set in the 90s or is it set now? Hatmer, I'm going to take a wild guess that Tara is painting with clear nail polish. Megaleech, it's ambiguous. There may be cell phones. The thing is, if it's set in the 90s, it won't be ambiguous for long, because when the secret society pops its head up, they'll either talk about the impending millennium or not. So that's if it's set in the 90s, there'll be the lead up to the millennium. But if they've just decided to not set it in a particular time, then there won't be lead up to the millennium. But Preacher was pretty good. I think the character Arseface has already been in the TV show. Is that right, Megaleech? A character that Cassidy, the Irish vampire, calls Arseface, because he's got a face that looks like an arse. Arseface is based on a real kid. Okay, Arseface is based on a real kid. In the 80s, maybe early 90s, some kids tried to commit suicide. They said that two teenagers tried to commit suicide. One did die and the other didn't, like actually fired a rifle into his face and it didn't kill him. And there's this big court case where his family and church tried to say it was heavy metal that was at fault, not his fucked up life. And the wound, like the impact of the bullet, basically caved in a lot of his face, which does make it look a bit like a sphincter. And yes, so the character Arseface in Preacher is actually inspired by a real kid, which is disturbing, honestly. You may or may not be surprised to learn when the case went to court. So it was Judas Priest they were blaming, and saying it's this heavy metal band's fault. These kids committed suicide, tried to commit suicide. They did not win the court case. The judge sort of said, no, you haven't proved squat. I mean, yes, there's dark imagery in their lyrics, and you can see kids being swayed by it, but there's no way you can actually blame this band for these kids doing this. So yeah, okay. So seeing more of Figugu. Hello, thank you. Oh no, you congratulated. So, if for those who don't get why I called this live stream "Do Not Congratulate" in capital letters, is the story about Trump, which I absolutely love, because Trump congratulated Putin on his win in the completely rigged elections. Like, the election that was a complete joke in Russia. And Trump received a briefing from his security staff, said, okay, blah, 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 this was the result. And when you're talking about, and apparently the briefing said in all caps, do not congratulate. Like they're saying, that would be bad. Do not congratulate Putin on his win because it's a complete fucking sham. So Trump then, despite getting a briefing that said literally in all caps, do not congratulate, went out and congratulated Putin. And everyone said, you fucking idiot. Probably the most extreme one ripping on him was a Republican, John McCain, who has decided quite some time ago he fucking hates Trump. But it was a little while ago, McCain clearly seemed to decide he has nothing to lose and is ripping on Trump something savage. Yeah. But Tara, you've been... Someone's ripped off your credit card. Okay, that sucks. Buying stuff on iTunes, that's weird because it's traceable. Like if someone uses your credit card to make iTunes purchases, it's actually traceable. That's a very, very dumb theft. Like if they're getting stuff from iTunes, you can trace it to a phone number. Now, look, admittedly, it might be a throwaway phone number, but it still seems quite a stupid sort of crime. Hey, shelf warmer. Oh, doing well. Oh, Joe Will. Yes. Aside from really deranged people, and there's a very small minority, I think a really overwhelming majority of the American population know he's the worst president ever, and yeah, it's just is a travesty. And I sincerely worry that he's going to damage the institutions of American politics and society so badly they won't recover. And, you know, an America that's out of control is not good for anyone. Oh yeah, but Andrew Jackson was a product of his time. He was a little bit genocidal, a little bit violent, a little bit. Oh, Indians got in my way. I'm going to kill them all. So yes, Andrew Jackson wasn't great, but he was a product of his time. Trump, as a product of his time, is absolutely the worst. And he's only just begun. He's not going to get better. He is not going to get better. He is only going to get worse. So that is a fucking moronic statement. Going to be better than Hillary. Clinton would have been a boring establishment hack. The concept of saying Trump would be better than anyone is fucking moronic. It is absolutely fucking moronic. It is not supported by evidence. It's not related to reality. This pathological Clinton hatred is ridiculous. I'm no fan of Clinton's at all. But all she would have been as the president is basically an extension of the Obama presidency, which basically means business as usual, more bombing of civilians in the Middle East, more surveillance of American citizens, more prosecuting of whistleblowers. Not great, but a measurable and known entity. And it's a real fucking low bar to say someone better than Trump. But the concept of saying Clinton would have been worse than Trump is fucking moronic. Like, there's no say, I'm a donor. No, it's objectively fucking stupid. I'm saying war doesn't pay the debts. That's weird. In the old days, and by old days, I mean as recently as World War II, Hitler's expansionism bolstered the economy of Germany up until it didn't. But in the old days, wars were about enrichment. It was about getting land or treasure or whatnot. And the fuck-ups of recent history in America, their wars have not only not enriched America, they have cost America an enormous amount of money. Oh yeah, Shellform, good old Cambridge Analytics. Yeah, see, even the two-pronged things, they're not completely separated and they may actually be tightly bound. The increasing amount of evidence and the lead up to the last presidential election, the targeted ads and destabilization coming from both this consulting firm, Cambridge Analytica, and Russian entities. I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm sort of planning to make a video about it with a title something along the lines of did the Russians actually do anything wrong, or did Cambridge Analytica actually do anything wrong? Now, the great big asterisk there, because if the Russians did do a criminal hack of DNC servers, that's a criminal act. If they did do hack of voting machines, which there is now evidence was done or attempted, that's a criminal act. But that's not what I'm talking about. The same with Cambridge Analytica. If they effectively stole data, that's illegal. But I'm getting into the tactics they're saying that they did, that both sides did, that basically causing trouble. Now, I personally think, prior to all this shit blowing up and Cambridge Analytica suddenly saying, oh, we hardly did anything at all. Prior to this all blowing up and looking like a criminal escapade, Cambridge Analytica were all over. We're personally responsible for the Brexit vote. We're personally responsible for Trump getting elected. I think they overstate their effect. Excuse me. I think they overstate their effectiveness considerably. I think they greasy salespeople, and they were selling their snake oil. Look, I think they could have had some effect of that, but it's interesting with Cambridge Analytica working for the Trump campaign. Their goal was to get Trump elected, and they may or may not have been influenced. They may have been a deciding influence, but the Russian agitators, it's been clear for a while, their goal was to destabilize America. Sorry, just interrupted. Celtic Kings just burst in. I was caught masturbating yesterday. We already know. Toby did actually tell us that. What the Russians, because they're saying that Russian bots and trolls and whatnot were responsible for both setting up pro-Clinton, anti-Trump sites and memes and whatnot, and they were also responsible for pro-Trump, anti-Clinton stuff. The Russian goal was just to fucking destabilize America, to stop there being any sort of sensible conversation, to make Americans basically be at war with each other and weaken America overall. And it is abundantly clear Putin and the Russians would have preferred Trump to win, because I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that Putin has Trump in his pocket. Whether it's, I don't think it's just the blackmail stuff. I think it's money as well. It's maybe just money, but I actually think the blackmail stuff is real. I think he has blackmail material on Trump. But I think the really big thing is the money that is used to buy off Trump. And it's no small amount. Like, if the truth ever comes out, it's reasonable to say it's in the hundreds of millions. Some of the deals that have been shown to be really shady, like buying tens of millions of dollars of overpriced apartments in a Trump tower. So all that money goes, it's just dodgy as fuck. So I don't think there's any doubt that Putin preferred Trump as US president, but the Russian involvement seemed to be as much about just destabilizing America as getting Trump to win. And a lot of people say, oh, they did this, they interfered. It's going, when you say interfere, to me, mostly it seems what you're saying, they exposed people's stupidity. They did manipulate people, but it doesn't seem to me to be in a criminal way. They literally just went, okay, let's manipulate people. Let's make them angry. Let's pit them against each other. Let's make sure there's no sensible discourse because everyone's just, ripping on each other. So I really think, like, when I see people getting worked up about, oh, the Russians set up these fake Facebook pages, Cambridge Analytica set up these fake Facebook pages. I'm going, really? Really? Is that actually a bad, well, it's a dishonest thing. And you could, I guess, argue it's an immoral thing, but is it illegal to just expose and manipulate people's stupidity? And I'm not saying that about Trump supporters, because it wasn't, we know for a fact it wasn't just Trump supporters who were targeted. Clinton supporters and Trump opponents were targeted as well. Sanders supporters were particularly targeted with misinformation and inflammatory claims. Is manipulating the fact people are stupid and feed into their own prejudices, is that criminal? Is that, I mean, yes, again, dishonest, setting up fake fronts for the sole purpose of whipping up what can only be described as hysteria, but is it really illegal? I don't know. Tara, are you surprised I'm able to concentrate? I just wanted to finish that train of thought for noticing that Celtic King saying he'd happily masturbate to Mega Leech. So there you go. Yeah. Celtic King, 2 problems or 3 problems with your concept of making a video of me making out with AZ. 1, AZ's got a boyfriend. 2, I've got a wife. 3, I'm not into dudes. So that will have to just be, a fond fantasy of yours, because there's probably even other reasons, but for those 3 big ones, that isn't a thing. I could even throw in a 4th one that could be damaging to our professional relationship as well. So sadly, not going to, oh, Mega Leech, okay, yes, technically we're not married, but it's easier to say. I'm getting into the habit of saying wife, but I'm saying. I'm not sure what you mean there. You're saying you don't think the problem's Russia trying to interfere in elections. Problems Trump took the bait because he got to be Prezi. I'm not sure what you mean there. I mean, I can see a lot of problems with Trump as president. A lot of Trump's basically that he's actively encouraging racists and bigots and validating their hideous behavior. That's a big thing that sucks. Emma, my thoughts on the South Australian political situation. Well, okay. For those who don't know, there was an election in the state of South Australia for this state government. The Progressive Labor Party had been in power for a long time, and they lost the election on the weekend, Conservative coalition. And as Emma points out, the new premier appears to be a complete fucking piece of shit. You may or may not have seen stories that Elon Musk was helping South Australia with their energy problems, because there's a complicated series of things where South Australia had been having problems with their energy supply. And Elon Musk had worked out this deal to have some of his magic batteries in place. And the early signs of the installed systems are incredibly promising. There was a plan to roll out these batteries to low-income houses to help them save on energy costs, like with solar and batteries. Energy would be much more affordable. The new premier has shown himself to be an utter piece of shit, because straight out of the gate, he's gone, I'm going to kill that battery deal. It's like, that is so fucking pathetic and petty and vindictive, and is it's just this thing that is happening with conservatives lately. They're driven by ideology over reality. It's like the federal conservative coalition deliberately fucked up the national broadband network because it wasn't their idea, and they couldn't admit that Labor had a good idea and a good plan, so they deliberately fucked it over so they could go, see, it's Labor's fault, so we're not going to do what they were going to do. We're going to do something that's really shit by comparison. But yeah. So yes, in my mind, the new South Australian Premier has shown himself immediately to be a complete piece of shit, to derail a plan to help low-income housing with the energy costs, with this next generation technology, and to kill it just on the grounds of ideology. Is a fucking piece of shit. Hi, Celtic King. I love you too. Yes, you're right, Tara. The Victorian Premier has said he's going to take up a battery deal with the Tesla company. So there is that. That's a good thing. It is interesting, even just the energy companies generally are investing heavily in renewables and next generation energy technology because they know it's the future. This whole thing about, oh, we've got to keep burning coal. So coal's only viable because it's subsidized. We pay for it 2 or 3 times over with subsidies and then inflated charges from energy suppliers. And coal isn't going to get less expensive. It's only going to get more expensive. So they know that while without significant investment, most alternative energies can't compete with the established energy grid. As time goes by, the renewables and newer energy options will get cheaper, and the old energy options will just get more and more expensive. And so even the commercially driven energy companies are all investing in new and renewable energy technologies. And it's just the fucking politicians who are so married to a fucked ideology that it's all downside and no upside. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like conservatives used to always pride themselves. They go, oh, the left wants to tell people what to do. They say they know how things should be, but us as conservatives, we're pragmatic and we only go on measurable results. We won't do something that we can't measure the benefit from. And that simply isn't true anymore, if it ever was. The right-wing parties are far more driven by ideology over reality than the left is. It's just the way it is. Hello, Gamer Frost. Going well. Hope you've been well. Yes, my week's been good. Started a new job. That's always a bit of a challenge, but it's a pretty good environment, so I'm happy there. Pat talks nuclear power. Okay, I'll start with like 4 big questions about nuclear power that the proponents of it don't have answers for, because they keep arguing nuclear power is less polluting than coal, so you should stop being scared of nuclear because it's better than coal. But their measurement of less dangerous is flawed at best. Yes, a nuclear power plant produces less emissions as it generates energy than a coal plant does. That is true. But there is the issue of the mining of the fuel for nuclear energy, which is destructive, dangerous, and heavily polluting. The second question, Joe, you've just addressed Chernobyl, Fukushima. The fact that if something goes wrong at a nuclear power plant, the result can be catastrophic. Which is not a good thing. The third problem that the proponents of nuclear power aren't good at addressing, Emma's just said, disposal of waste, the safe disposal of waste. There is still no consistent, safe way to dispose of waste that's dangerous for hundreds of thousands of years. The disposal of the waste, there is no answer for that at the moment. And so the waste remains dangerous. The fourth is the danger of the byproducts of nuclear power, the spent fuel cells being used for weapons development. And the simple fact is, the more energy that's generated by nuclear power plants, the more of this material is produced, the higher the risk that someone will use it for bad ends, whether they can actually refine it to use it for nuclear weapons, or they just do the old dirty bomb thing, something that will explode and disperse the radioactive material, nowhere near as destructive as a nuclear bomb, but you could effectively render a city uninhabitable. So, yeah, it's basically four reasons to be wrong. Pat, what you're saying, solar useless in winter, it needs to be sunny. Not really true. Clearly, a solar cell needs sunlight to generate electricity. It does not need constant sunlight, particularly with new battery technology. And again, talking about Australia, with our excess of sunlight, Germany, which gets about 1/10 as much sunlight as Australia, generates a significant chunk of its energy from solar. Australia could form a very large and reliable part of our energy grid with solar, with the right investment. Just saying it won't work if it's not sunny is basically not true. And today, you're right, we could explore wind, we could explore tidal. Apparently there is some promising news on the tidal front. The other one is, and there were experiments done on this in Australia, and I don't know where they stand, geothermal energy, basically using the heat of the land to generate updrafts. There was this crazy thing I remember reading. There was an experiment done where like they built this chimney that was about 1 kilometre high or something like that, and the idea was, and it was in the desert, that the heat from the ground generated enough draft which got channeled into this chimney and it accelerates up, and you could quite effectively use it to drive turbines to generate electricity. So there are quite a few possible things. Solar, wind, geothermal, tidal, they all need more work, but they all seem to be viable in the future, at least. And none of them have the downside that nuclear has. So I'm very hesitant to listen to people who say nuclear is the answer, because I don't believe they answer those 4 questions. To repeat for the kids who are down the back, first problem with nuclear: the mining of the fuel is destructive, dangerous, and toxic. It destroys the environment. 2 problems: Chernobyl, Fukushima. 3, disposal of waste. 4, the risk of the waste being used as weapons. Tendo, have I seen whirlpool generators? I think whirlpool turbines. I think I've seen one. They're the ones where, like, they literally, like, they appear to make a hole in the river when they're running. They put them in big rivers, and they suck down the flow of the river, and it looks like there's a hole in the river. Is that because I've seen those things? Are those whirlpool turbines? So, Pat talks geothermal will be the best solution. I don't know. I'm not an expert. So I'm being very honest and saying I'm not an expert, but there are a few things I do know, mainly both environmentally and financially. Coal's not sustainable, and anyone who says it is a fucking liar. I think there are some very big risks with nuclear that its proponents haven't answered very well. Geothermal, what I do know about it, it's a clear possibility. But yeah, even, like I said, a hybrid of renewables, whether you go, depending on where you are, geothermal or tidal or wind or solar and combinations thereof. Yeah, the new battery technologies particularly promising, because the big things why wind and solar wasn't necessarily useful in the past is it would generate electricity and sort of send it out the grid, but if no one used it, then, well, it's gone. And then you don't get rain or wind, you don't get sun or wind for an extended period, and those things are no longer generating enough energy for the grid. But with advances in battery technology, the days when there's excess sunlight and excess wind means you can actually overfeed the grid, and the stuff that's not used goes into the batteries, which is much better. Yes, Emma, you're right. You can wash a lump of coal for as long as you want, and it isn't clean. That utter fucking lie. The concept of clean coal is just a fucking lie. There's no such thing. Oh, Tara is saying, go to the garbage tip. There might be sections that are storing gas. I know landfill, garbage dump, do generate an enormous amount of gas. Famously, I remember seeing a doco of the Philippines, and there were big garbage dumps outside of Manila, and they were sort of showing poor people were scavenging through them. These are massive landfills, and you see there's smoke rising from everywhere because there's so much of the landfill. The stuff's decomposing, as rubbish does. There's also pressure from the weight, and the combination of the decomposition and the pressure was A, creating gas, and B, also igniting it. So whole sections of the landfill were on fire, like not on the surface on fire, but it was burning inside, and smoke and gas was coming out, and they were prone to the occasional collapse and explosion, which was doubly dangerous. The unfortunate people being who forced to scavenge there. But yes, garbage dumps, landfill can potentially produce an energy supply as well. Again, you have solar at the dairy, runs all the time here. And you're right, you do still have to, in the current world, you do still have to be connected to the power grid. But that's the thing, like if there were more solar generation input into the power grid, yeah, you'd still be connected to the grid even though you had your own solar stuff. But again, hopefully the majority, if not all of your energy, would be coming from other renewable and less polluting energy production methods, as opposed to fucking burning coal and gas. So yes. Musical aviator, things dirty and carbon emitting. The Grand Prix Formula One's in Melbourne this weekend. Emma, you're saying South Australians didn't care. You as a citizen, and a lot of citizens might not have cared, but I remember it was a big fucking shitstorm when the Grand Prix, which used to be in Adelaide, got poached and moved to Melbourne. Now, the overwhelming majority of Melbourne wouldn't give a shit if it went away from Melbourne, because it's funny, their dirty secret got released a couple years ago that it doesn't even generate a sort of net positive income, Victoria, because the lie they always said about the Grand Prix, we want it because it generates money for the economy. No, we actually spend so much money to host it, it doesn't make any. I used to live in the general neighbourhood of the Grand Prix. I moved like a year ago, but from my old house, we could hear it. Like when I say the general neighbourhood, you're a suburb away, maybe 2 suburbs away. But you'd hear this if you're in the backyard. You'd hear this noise that sounded like mosquitoes, and it was the F1 cars going round and round. Just this. Emma Ben wants to know if we can take clips off. I caught up with a friend, a YouTube friend who lives in Adelaide, who comes into the live streams occasionally, Adele. She was in Melbourne a week or two ago, and we caught up and hang out. And she was telling me all about the Clipsal, which is that's a production V8 race, I think. Yes, the Bogan Festival. Well, Emma, I was in Bathurst in New South Wales at college for 4 years when the big Bogan Festival has the. I don't even know what they call it now. Is it still the James Hardy 1000? Used to its name's changed, but big V8, big V8, V8's racing, V8's racing round and round. Yes, they attract fucking bogans, and it's very annoying. But yeah, a funny story for those who don't know, which could be a lot of people. Bathurst, which is a country town west of Sydney, somehow, and this is quite a long time ago, many decades ago, pulled off some scam where there was a hill next to the town. Bathurst is basically in the foothills of the Blue Mountains, a mountain range west of Sydney, and there's a hill on the outskirts of town called Mount Panorama, and they somehow pulled this scam that using public money to turn the road around this mountain into a racetrack. And lo and behold, it became one of Australia's premier racetracks. Both motorcycle and motor car racing happens on it. But the fact that they got all this work done with public money was such a scam. It's so funny they got away with it. I'm not sure. You did a test that revealed you were 60% bogan. Yeah, depending on the nature of the test, I might show up as more than that, given where I grew up. Hey, Locust Trooper, how you doing? Good to see you. This guy grew up in a country town in Western New South Wales, a town called Dubbo, which is synonymous with the whole idea of bogans. So, oh no, I have no drink. It is a criminal offence. 24, you are late, but I'm probably going to be around for about another hour. I'm trying to think. I was going to look something up. and in terms of drink. So, trying to think if I went. For God's sake, what's that about? Stupid Google. Okay, look at brandy cocktails. A sidecar. That's one of my favorites. Ow! Why is my shoulder doing that? I've been complaining a bit on the old socials and on these and on videos about my shoulder. This is a sign of being old. I fucked up my shoulder just by sleeping on it. And yes, everyone sort of goes, oh, my neck's sore because I slept funny last night. And that only lasts for a day. Yeah, well, this, I didn't pay attention to the pain, and I kept sort of sleeping like this, and ow, fuck. And then I realized, no, I'm actually in excruciating pain and it won't go away. So I've started seeing a physio. I should have gone months ago. You know, better late than never. Yes, I'm getting that worked on, but it occasionally, out of the blue, really fucking hurts. What's a brandy daisy? Chartreuse. I don't have chartreuse. I have lemon juice. Chartreuse. I could substitute the Cinzano, I guess. I've really gotten into making cocktails lately. What they say is in a brandy sour. Bitters, brandy, lemon squash. I've got all those components. Ooh, I could make that. I'll put some. Yes, actually, I'm gonna make this. Okay, got to make a version of this brandy sour. You're all in on this. Don't. 24, you're MGTOW now. Look, okay, you want me to say something? I feel like I can understand why you might want to go that way. I don't think you're doing yourself any favors with that ideology. And I'm thinking purely of you. Now, I'm not going to say anything else about what I think is negative. I think about you. What? Explain to me, and this is being totally genuine, dude, not ripping on you, not hassling you. Explain to me what you think you get out of the MGTOW ideology, or what you're looking for, or what you feel like pushed you there. Because I feel like just your own self-interest, I don't think it will help you. So I'd be interested in what MGTOW is men going their own way. The theory being, and 24, if this isn't you, you're scared of the court system. MGTOWs aren't helping you with that, buddy. It's basically men saying, going their own way. They're saying we shouldn't be involved with women because they see women as doing negative things to men. And so they think, well, so we're not going to have anything to do with women because we think women are negative for men. So, yeah, I have a few problems with the ideology. 24, dude, for you, I would just say my biggest concern for you would be hurting yourself. Because all I've ever seen from that is a sort of negative downward spiral that is very hard to get out. I just don't think a core ideology being that negative helps you. I think if you need a break from certain things, if you see things that you think are wrong, I think you need a more positive approach. So, Joe, yeah, I could understand being single because relationships are a hassle. Of course, women can be judgmental. Humans are judgmental. Humans are flawed. Humans are bad. But the whole thing of the MGTOW thing of I'm not happy with the way my interaction with women has gone, therefore I'll cut them out of my life completely. And this is not saying, you know, if you're going to say, I'm only going to have sex with dudes now, that would make sense. But these guys, to the best of my knowledge, don't promote homosexuality. In fact, I think a lot of them are homophobic. But I just think, look, I've had really bad relationships. I've been treated really badly by women in relationships, like super badly. I've been fucked over really badly. And this is, I'm talking about me, myself now, but I believe this would be the same for me. And this is also, this is whatever your gender or orientation. If you if your reaction to being treated badly by a person is to latch on to an ideology that preaches hate of that group, I think you're hurting yourself. What Joe was saying about relationships being difficult and painful and choosing to be single for a while or permanently, some people do end up not getting involved with other people ever again. And look, sometimes being treated really badly in a relationship can be enough of a reason to not get involved with a relationship again. But there's a difference between saying, okay, I'm not going to expose myself to that pain and hurt. I'm going to live my own life, through to I'm now blaming this entire group of people for all my problems and am going to indulge in this hate-based ideology, not least because it's a really shitty thing to do to other people. You're hurting yourself. It's like when I see those things with those pickup artists who are being played by the various losers, like that douche V guy. I always want to tell the guys who subscribe to this whole pickup artist, the game and whatnot, just want to sit them down, dude, you are never further from scoring a root than when you do this shit. Than when you listen to someone like this fucking rapist garbage person. You are hurting yourself. If your intent is to find someone to have relations with, you are hurting yourself in chance. So, I mean, you know, I personally take a view about be nice to other people. Like there was an interesting article that was written a little while ago that I see shared quite a bit on things like Twitter and Facebook. And the headline was basically, I don't know how to explain to you why you should care about other people. Like this ideology pushed by some particular loudmouths, usually people who call themselves the alt-right or whatever, but not limited to, but people who, you know, fuck you, I've got mine, I'm not helping anyone else. all of human society, even the brutal regimes, have essentially been based on humans working together. So the idea that you shouldn't have empathy for other people, that you shouldn't care about the misfortune of other people, is shitty, and it also doesn't match humans' evolutionary growth either. The social nature of humans is why human culture advanced. This idea of rugged individualism is fucking horseshit. Ooh, I need some ice. I need some ice. Oh, my legs don't work. Ooh, I could do that. I'm gonna do that. Ice, ice, baby. Here we go. Ice, baby. Maybe this. Maybe this. I haven't 100% decided what I'm mixing here. Okay, so this is one of my concoctions, nice blue color, because it's peppermint. I had dissolved peppermint rock candy in there. I have a bit of that. So Jatma, well, really nice that you grew up in a house that means you don't understand why people would be mean, because far too many people, not, as I said, not the majority of people, and I also will go out here, I will go out on a limb, people on the left who say conservatives are all mean, that's bullshit and not true. Traditional conservative values had things like charity at their core, helping the less fortunate at their core. There are definitely some proponents of what they call conservatism today who are hateful garbage. Not like the left's immune from that either, but I don't really side with people who say, oh, being conservative means you're awful and don't like other people and don't hate. No, an enormous number of conservative people dedicate their lives to helping others and improving the lot of others, and improving the opportunity of others. That is bullshit as well. Sorry, Locust, you asked twice the meaning of bogan. It was okay. It's basically redneck. It's loud person from the country or the fringes of the city. The term was popular. There are actual areas in southwestern New South Wales called Bogan. There's a shire called Bogan. There's a Bogan River. There's a town called Bogan Gate. To the best of my knowledge, the first time Bogan started to be used as an insult was on a comedy show in the 80s. And they had a character on it who's this obnoxious schoolgirl called Kylie Mole. And she called people she didn't like bogans. And I think these guys the people on this show, the comedy company, had just picked up bogan sounded funny. And there was a country area called Bogan. And so they just decided to arbitrarily call, yeah, Charlie used to say trailer trash. They decided to call them bogans. I'm willing to be corrected, but I've always thought that's where it came from. Emma, Sophie Monk proudly identifies as bogan. She just goes. Brizzy, there's Logan, which is full of bogans. The Logan Bogans of Logan. If you want a good representation of bogans because it's not completely negative, but it's kind of funny. There's an Australian movie from, God, about 20 years ago called Muriel's Wedding. And I actually saw it, most of it again recently. And it's a great movie. Fuck, some people hate it. Fuck people who don't like Muriel's Wedding. Muriel's Wedding is a great movie. It's really funny. Like in Australia now, you might see people in online who are Australians refer to getting a gobby or giving a gobby, which is a reference to fellatio, oral sex performed on a man. That comes or was popularized from Muriel's Wedding. This character in it who says, I was given my boyfriend a gobble, and that ended up getting shortened to gobby. Gobbling his dick. Magazine art, exactly. You're terrible, Angry. 24, you tried, you're tired and going to bed. Yes, fair enough, dude. That's yeah. Yes. Oh my God. What's her name? Who was in Muriel's Wedding and did Funniest Home Videos? She also did Sophie Lee. That's right. Did the Bugs Bunny show in the afternoons. I remember a share house I was in Sydney in the deep dark past when Sophie Lee was hosting cartoon show in the afternoons, and she's quite attractive, and she wouldn't dress like really sexy, but she'd wear kind of like nightclubby clothes while she's introducing these kids cartoons. And this dude I shared the house with used to like run into the TV room every afternoon. What's she wearing today? What's she wearing? I love you, Sophie. I love you. What are you wearing today? She also had a really good line, just a beautiful moment in Muriel's Wedding, because she's the beautiful popular girl who the protagonist Muriel wants to be like, and eventually Muriel works out that this girl and her friends are fucking horrible and she shouldn't have anything to do with them, and she walks out on them. Sophie Lee does this thing where she goes right to camera in her best bogan voice, like, you can't treat me like that. I'm beautiful. And it's absolutely priceless because she is incredibly attractive, but it's so ugly the way she says, you can't do that to me. I'm beautiful. It's absolutely brilliant. But yes, Muriel's Wedding's like classic Australian movie. The You're a Terrible line, for those who don't know, Muriel runs away from her family and she keeps getting in trouble. And every time she either sees her sister or calls her sister on the phone, the first thing the sister says is, you're terrible, Muriel. Like the sister's really enjoying all the shit that Muriel's causing. So she acts like she's affronted, but she loves it. It's like, you're terrible, Muriel. It is a really good movie. Oh, my bride! Yes. Charlie, did I see Bogan Pride with Rebel Wilson? I'm not. That was that a show on SBS? SBS has specialised for a few years in doing this comedy produced by this same group of people. What have been the various names of the different series? Fat Pizza, Housos, Bogan Pride, but Rebel Wilson was on one. These shows just really, really play up on stereotypes. Paulie, what's his name, who's the main person behind them, refers to it as choco humor, as in brown-skinned people who are either migrants or children of migrants in Australia. Not really my cup of tea. Some of the stuff he does is funny. He always says, if you don't think it's funny, it's just because you're not a choco. But he's done Paulie Fennick. That's it, Charlie. Yeah. he's done a lot of TV series and at least 1 or 2 movies. It's really funny though with his stuff. Like he's done a couple movies, and his audience is very niche. And I've had people. I'm not a particular fan of his stuff. Like when I saw the Fat Pizza movie, I literally only had one laugh in it, and as in an uncontrolled belly laugh, because the joke was so good, it really got me. In Australia, the police put up these signs on various highways that say the things they targeted, and you know, so you should be careful. Like, and they'll change what it is. It'll sometimes say police now targeting drink driving, police now targeting seatbelts, police now targeting speeding, and in these polyphonic ones, there's a character who's a stereotype of different things. He's I'm not sure what he is, whether he's Lebanese or Greek or. But there's another one called Mustafa, who's Lebanese, who is always getting in trouble, and he at one point, because he's a hoon who's always driving his car around, and he actually sees a sign as he's driving around once that says "Police now targeting Lebanese," and when I saw that sign, I just lost it. I laughed so much. Because, yeah, I can understand people feeling like that. Locust Trooper, what's worse, British Chav or Aussie Bogan? Basically the same. Although, as I understand it, Chavs come from the cities, where traditionally Bogans are from the country or the outer suburbs, maybe. Celtic King, you're right. Might be right. Paulie Fennick might be Maltese. But he has the different Caucasian stereotypes as well. A white guy who's a bogan in a flannelette shirt, Rebel Wilson, who played, you know, bleach blonde bogan, and there's the other guy who's in all his stuff, who's like club DJ on pingers all the time. So he basically puts in a stereotype of every ethnic group he can think of. Not that everyone says, but honestly, like when he makes a movie every now and then, and then people say, oh, no one even watches those. I'm reasonably sure, like when he goes to make a movie, it's all movies are about money, very calculated. But I think with Paulie stuff, they're like really precise in their measurements. They've gone. I honestly think with him, they go like, okay, we know your demographic down to a T. We've seen the DVD sales. We've seen the ticket sales from the last movie. We know if we get you to make a movie, we'll make this much. So therefore, we will give you a budget of this much. Here's your budget. Do whatever the hell you want with it, because we're confident we'll make this much profit off it. And they just say, here's your money, go for it. Tara, you're right. The live streams here, we do have fun. Anything goes. We talk about anything and everyone. Oh, Charlie, you're saying Rebel was a Greek girl called Tula. See, there you go. I didn't watch, but I know she's played a bogan on other things. I've watched some of those shows, but not many of them. But yeah, you know, like I said, doesn't appeal to everyone, but he's definitely got an audience. Money is what makes the world go round. That's why I always laugh when people, like, when there's, whether it's a TV show or a movie or you know, a recording star or whatever, and they go, why did anyone ever even make it? It's for money. Okay, the answer is always they did it for money. So stop posing the question of why did that movie even get made? It was made for money, okay? The fact you and I might not like it is neither here or not there, because it's a big old world out there, and they were pretty convinced they were going to make their money from somebody. So yeah. Ooh, there we go. We're going to catch up and talk, Joe and Harry. That's good. It's, you know, it's good. It's trying to think what else did I see. Oh, okay. Even just as a side thing, like all the shit that's been happening on YouTube for the last year or so. You know, the adpocalypse. A lot of advertising being taken away from creators on YouTube, and this was made worse, or was even kicked off being bad, first by PewDiePie, #1 YouTuber, being exposed for making anti-Semitic jokes. You know, he says he's not anti-Semitic and his friends do, but he was making jokes where the punchline was "kill all the Jews." Uh, so uh, and some traditional media outlets decided to make a big deal out of it and say, "Oh, look at this! Do you realise this is, you know, what advertising?" And then a bunch of advertisers said, "We don't want our advertising dollars going to stuff that we don't like this, like YouTube. You are supposed to be responsible and not have our ad message going on stuff that would affect our brand negatively." Then people really looked into basically the ultra right wing hate videos that were making a lot of money, and brands really started going, fucking hell, I don't want my advertising dollars going on videos that say all Muslims must die, all women must die, all Christians must die, all anyone must die. I mean, what are you doing? So there's been a real crackdown on advertising. A lot of people losing advertising dollars, and people are like going, "Oh, it's censorship," and I was going, "It's not censorship, you muppet. It's capitalism. How do you not get that? Like when you're on someone else's platform, like YouTube, and you're hoping that someone gives you money for the stuff you put on that platform that you don't own and don't control. If you don't have control over the money, you're just hoping they give it to you. The instant you do something they don't like, they can stop giving you money. That's capitalism. It isn't censorship, it's capitalism. They're only doing it because they think it affects their bottom line. Safa, I do hear if you swear you get demonetized. I actually demonetized all my videos a while ago. I'm not sure if I assume if I tried to switch it back on, they'd just go, yeah, no, you can't be monetized. What the fuck are you thinking? So, but yeah, I just thought it was too much hassle, and so I just deactivated monetization on all my videos. Look, Jupiter here, Nixon granddaughter going for mayor of New York. Oh, Cynthia Nixon. Okay. The unqualified lesbian. Yes. Batman Sport. Hello. That's generated a few jokes like a politician. This is Cynthia Nixon, who's famous for being on Sex and the City. Uh, and she said she's going to run for governor. Was it mayor of New York or governor of New York State? I thought she was going to run for governor of New York State. But it's either mayor of New York City or governor of New York State. And an establishment politician who didn't like the idea of a celebrity going in said something along the lines of, oh, you know, this is serious. I don't want to waste time talking about an unqualified lesbian. And what she meant is, well, she meant lesbian as a derogatory term for a start. And by unqualified, she meant unqualified as a politician. But a lot of people are run with the joke that, well, she said unqualified lesbian as if there's some formal qualification to being a lesbian. And even Cynthia Nixon apparently tweeted something like, well, fair call, she got me because I'm not a qualified lesbian. But have you ever seen the paperwork they force you to go through at Lesbian University to get your accreditation? It's ridiculous. Sorry, I just missed a whole bit of conversation there. Emma saying we're scared of nipples, and because everyone's. I've a friend, and this is actually I don't want to say one of my internet friends, but it's someone I've actually met. He lives here in Melbourne. He does glamour photography, a lot of nude work, but not all nude work, and some of the subjects are models. Some of them are sex workers, either escorts or they do porn or both. And he shoots stuff for their portfolio. And his wife does the makeup on the shoots to make sure he doesn't play up, I think. But whenever he posts pics, like on Instagram or Facebook, he always, like, censors out naughty bits, but he doesn't just like blur them or stuff. He always puts like a little sticker over there that says like, nipples are terrifying. or over someone's crotch, a thing saying, oh no, nature is awful. Or yeah, be ashamed of your body. He always takes the piss with the censorship he does for Instagram and Facebook, which always gives me a bit of a giggle, quite honestly. Locust Trooper, have I ever played Age of Empires? No. I think we had this. Whenever we get around to gaming, I always say, like, I don't play much because they take up too much time. Lately, I am playing Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Switch. And I did recently play Grand Theft Auto 5 and Yakuza 0. I talking about male nipples are okay. As a joke, I found this picture because I often submit stuff to an image sharing site called Imgur, and they have a no nipple rule, right? And someone produced this image that was everything was pixelated except a nipple, and you really couldn't tell whether the subject was male or female. A bunch of people going, no, I'm pretty sure it's definitely female, or there's definitely male. But it was a slender person, but it was so pixelated, you couldn't tell if they were male or female. And the only unpixelated bit was like this big, their nipple. And so to see what response it would get, because no nipples on Imgur, I posted it, and it was really popular and got a lot of upvotes. And after about a day, got deleted by the site admins, which I thought was hilarious. It's go like, okay, we've just exposed the arbitrariness of your stupid rule, because if it was a topless male, you'd have no problem. But this was just literally just a disembodied nipple, and you had no way of knowing if it was male or female, but you censored it, so it was really funny. Oh, Megalich, you're saying, right, you reckon Rise of Let's try that again. Rise of Nations was the pinnacle of Age of Empire type games. Yeah. Actually, you know, my longest running game is on my mobile phone. The Simpsons Tapped Out. I've been playing that every day for fuck knows how long. I don't know, 5 or 6 years. A long time, anyway. If you ever heard, like, who remembers Farmville? Remember when Farmville was the big thing, where you just did all those repetitive tasks to slowly build up your farm? And there's a million variations on that. You build a world through doing these repetitive tasks. There's a Simpsons version of that called Tapped Out, and it's fun because you're building your own Springfield. Like, what's the main thing I used to do in my 20s? Did I smoke a lot of weed? No, I've never smoked weed. I've never smoked anything. In my misspent youth with going to parties and raves and whatnot in the 90s, look, I'll be honest, my intoxication of choice, a perfect night was acid and speed. Speed to go all night, and acid to make everything trippy and nice colors for the whole night. So there was a period in the 90s where I did a fair bit of that. So, but you know, I've never smoked anything. Oh, and he's saying Tamagotchi's coming to face. Seems a little overdue, really, doesn't it? Locust Tube, I guess you could say it's the heavy stuff. But ecstasy was too expensive. When I think heavy stuff, I think heroin. And cocaine was too expensive as well. See, I never smoke any. Oh yeah, Emma, I'm such a fan of hallucinogens. Um, uh, don't really do it anymore, but yes, no, I was a big fan of the consciousness expanding aspect of hallucinogens. But yes, oh, acid and eckies, yeah. If the eckies had enough up in them, I did do ecstasy a couple times. Like only a couple because it was so fucking expensive. So see, that was the thing. An eckie back in the day cost $50, which was the equivalent of it costing $100 now. And to me, that was too much pressure to have a good time. I used to, $20 for a trip and some speed. Joe, there's nothing cool about doing drugs or uncool or boring about not doing drugs. Double Karma, good question. Mimsy, not in tonight. I thought about that when I started up. Is she going to join us? But she's nowhere to be seen. So I actually don't know where she was. So the other thing about ecstasy is the embarrassing nature. Because I don't think I ever did ecstasy alone. I think I was like always with a girlfriend if I did ecstasy. And you get that slightly embarrassing, like, because good ecstasy does make you love everyone. You with your significant other and it's going, I really love you. It's not the drugs, okay? I just really feel you are very special. Honestly, in retrospect, a little bit embarrassing. Probably more embarrassing if it wasn't for someone you're involved with, if you're just saying it to strangers, and because you would get that shit happening if you're at a nightclub or a rave or a house party or something, and someone who is unattached but on eckies just wanting to touch everyone, and they're just coming to everyone, you're beautiful, your spirit glows, oh, you're so lovely, you're radiating love, I think you're wonderful. People can get really embarrassing on eckies, basically. Batman, my thought on ABM, Corey Bernardi's ABT win. I said this on Twitter and Facebook. That guy is such a fucking disgusting hypocrite. For those who don't know, an ABC comedy show ran a sketch where they had someone talking about a recent election in the electoral seat of Batman, named after John Batman. We were talking about Batman last live stream. And he was saying the historical figure, John Batman, was a real cunt, and that was the actual word he used on the show. John Batman was a cunt, was involved in the attempted genocide of Tasmanian Aborigines. It's basically not a nice guy. This guy going, should change the name of that electorate from Batman to Batman was a cunt. And then they were showing some pictures, and someone from Corey Bernardi's Conservative Party didn't even have the name Batman on the poster anyway. He goes, oh, in that case, just say the guy's name was John Smith. I can't remember his name. This guy didn't even say Batman, so we can't put Batman was a cunt. Well, in that case, we'll just say John Smith is a cunt. And Corey Bernardi and some other conservatives have been lobbying. They're saying someone should be fired. You shouldn't be allowed to say that. These are literally the same people who are against anti-discrimination laws because they think racists shouldn't be prosecuted. It's like, oh, religious people should be able to spread hate against homosexuals. Oh, that's not racist. That's just free speech. Why are you against free speech? But as soon as someone says something they don't like, they're like, oh, sack them, destroy their lives, ruin them. They're filthy, fucking disgusting hypocrites. And I hate them. And you went to a rave with 20,000 of the nicest people. Nice. And no locust trooper, I never got in a bar fight. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Was that, man, I almost got, I remember once, I might have even eaten a hatch cookie, and I was walking to a pub where I always used to go to see live bands, the Sandringham in Newtown, and I wasn't really paying attention to my surroundings. And I saw this guy, really big guy, coming out with someone who was, in retrospect, they were clearly trying to calm him down. And his face was really red and flushed, and I wasn't really paying attention. But just as I went past him, I sort of thought, he looks a bit weird. What's that about? And he just lunged at me. Oh, what the fuck are you looking at? And grabbed at me, and he didn't get a grip. Like, he got the shoulder of my jacket, and I pulled away. I got away from him, and I went into the venue. Fuck! What had clear? He'd just been thrown out of the venue, and the bouncers had fucked him up a bit. And immediately after being thrown out and roughed up by the bouncers, he'd come across me, and because I looked at him, he wanted to punch me. He was fucking huge. He would have killed me. But I missed being grabbed by about this much. So I'm not the type of person. But I got to go soonish, in about 10 minutes. But yes, thank you for dropping by. Yeah, no, you don't want to be a place where everyone's on pingers. It gets really weird. And the other thing, and I know I've probably been guilty of it as well, but I remember like being out in nightclubby districts, like in Sydney, being on Oxford Street, and if you were straight, like not inebriated with anything, or relatively straight, and there'd be you get these things where the next table is some people who are being really loud and shrieky and really drawing attention to what a good time they were having, and I'd want to like shout at them, "We fucking get it! You're on drugs. Your drugs are good. You want everyone to know your drugs are good. We get it. Shut the fuck up." You get really mean when you're not out of it and someone clearly is and is trying to draw attention to how out of it they are. I mean, your battery's dying. Well, like I said, I'm not that long for this world. Jatma, you have a different effect because you might have ADD. Look, well, clearly, like some meds that are used to treat ADHD, if they're taken by people who don't have ADHD, they're basically amphetamines. So something that just levels people out who have ADD can send someone right off if they don't have ADD. Like, it's true, but how hard is it to get off drugs? That's how long is a piece of string? Kibriol. Where are you from? That's an interesting. Is that a name that would be recognizable where you're from? Yeah. How hard is it to get off drugs? I mean, some people say heroin's very hard to get off. Some people say ice or methamphetamine's hard to get off. It's anything can be habit forming, and habits can be very dangerous. I remember, like, I was in a shared house, and we would only very occasionally do these substances, but sometimes you might do it like 2 nights in a row or even 3 nights in a row, and so you got this thing going, and then you go to work on Monday. I remember having conversations with my housemates, like on a Monday night or a Tuesday night, like, oh, maybe we ought to ease off the gear, because I was at work today and I was feeling a bit down, and out of the blue I just went, this job would be much better if I was on speed right now. And then you go, oh wait, that feels like the first moments of dependence where you want a drug just to make it through the day. So Locust, I never had any problem going off drugs because I never took them that often. Like, I do it a couple, I don't know, half a dozen times a year. I don't think I'd do it more than, even at the peak, I don't think I'd do it more than once every month or two on average. So I never used to the extent that I was going, but I was conscious of how easy it would be to be sucked into it. I mean, shit, I was talking about shared houses. One shared house I lived in Sydney, and this was a big house. There was like 5 people living in it. I was the only one. It got to the point where I was the only one in the house not using heroin, and it was like, okay, this is maybe not the best environment. I like the trip. It took me 13 years to get off the weed. See, if you get into a habit, and lots of people who smoke weed smoke it every day, multiple times a day. If you do that, that can be a very strong habit. It's hard to break. Same as smoking tobacco, or if you drink beer every day, or fucking if you're like me and you eat junk food every day, it's a very hard habit. Any habit can, particularly something that changes your mood. A habit that changes your mood can be very hard to break because you become dependent on that stimulation for your mood, and particularly if the stimulation is I feel good, or this is the only pleasure I get out of a day. Now, whether that's smoking weed or drinking booze, or for some people eating, like some morbidly obese people, the only positive thing they feel every day is eating. And someone says to them, you should just go on a diet. You've just got to eat less. So this is someone who may feel like their entire life is fucked, and the one single pleasure they get in any given day is eating. And your magical thing to tell them is, don't eat. Like your whole life shit and your health is fucked and you don't have a job, you know that. But that one thing that you do enjoy, we should take that away. You shouldn't have that anymore. So habits, whatever they are, can be incredibly hard to break. So I try really hard not to be judgmental of people, simply because, as I said, I've been around people. I've been around people who smoke way too much dope. Like I said, I've been in a house where everyone else was on heroin. Been with people who were compulsive eaters. Oh my god! I remember, when I used to take the acid. Went with a housemate to a supplier's house to get the gear, and they seemed to want us to hang around and be friends. But everyone in this house was clearly fucked. Like, we were just like, yeah, cool, dude. We just want the drugs and want to go away. But we're trying to be polite, so you will sell them to us and not send us out. But we really don't want to hang with you. And it didn't stop us from buying the acid. Like, you could see the person we were buying from had clearly fucked their brain up. If you do too much of serious drugs, whether it be heroin or amphetamines, ice, acid, hallucinogens, you will fuck up your brain chemistry and you will have a big problem. And this guy we were buying from clearly had a big problem and had clearly fucked his brain up quite a bit. Didn't put us off buying the drugs from him at all. So, yes. Smiley sounds like Boogie. Yeah. You get to a certain point, and that's all you have. See, what's that username? Rudiger. If you don't have a job, your priority shouldn't be stuff like that. See, dude, just being really judgmental and showing a lack of understanding. It's all well and good to say, like, if you've just got a shitty life, you should stop doing the thing that's making your life shitty. But what you see as shitty is sometimes the only positive in that person's life. And it's a really fucked thing to just go, well, I don't experience what you're experiencing, so you should just stop doing the one thing that's the only positive in your life, or the thing that feels like a positive in your life, even if it's the thing that's actually fucking up your life. Just don't do it. It's just like, you're going to be that judgmental and that narrow in your thinking, you know, you're not going to help anyone. Gosh, Toriana gave up Coke. Yeah, I drink sugar-free things like Pepsi Max. If I went off Pepsi Max altogether, I would probably feel sick for a couple of days from the caffeine withdrawal. Because I've done it before, and you do. It's like a mild. If at my level, it's like a mild cold. I've known people who did way serious amounts of caffeine, like, you know, having 6 triple espressos a day, and when they went off it cold turkey, they were bedridden for a couple of weeks. You know, the withdrawal was like having a really bad flu. Caffeine addiction is really intense, and getting off caffeine can be really difficult. Fiore, very late, my friend, almost finished, in fact. Charlie, exactly. The flip side of telling someone who's morbidly obese to stop eating is someone who has anorexia saying, "Well, just eat something. Just eat." It's there is a lot behind it, and when you think you're coming up with a single word solution, you're not helping. You're the problem. It's just like fuck. So yeah, people who propose simple answers to complex issues annoy me, basically. So yeah, try not to be that person, because yeah, life is not simple. Oh, see, okay, Toriana, 7+ cans of sugared cola is super bad for you. Oh, look, I don't drink coffee. I drink Pepsi Max, which is a sugar-free Pepsi, and I have a couple of those a day, which yeah, not good for me. But you know, it's a thing. Jahatma, you make a valid point when people say ill-informed things about mental illness. It's hard to tell whether they're just ignorant or if they're actually a real cunt. Hey, so you quit drinking because you had a bad problem? No, dude. You do what works for you. Some people can drink in moderation, but you're right. With a lot of people who have an issue with alcoholism, drinking one drink is a trigger to drink too much. It's sort of like, okay, maybe I'll just have one drink. Hey, look, I had one drink and nothing went wrong. Clearly, I don't have a problem. I can have another drink. Okay. I get very upset with people who try to pressure someone. Like, I'm trying to be open when I talk about, yeah, in the past I did do drugs, and I had some alcohol to drink while we were talking. But anyone who tries to pressure someone, no, you should just have a drink. Yeah, just have a snort. No, fuck you. If someone says they don't want to or can't because they have a problem with it, anyone who pressures them is a real piece of shit. That makes me really angry. But yeah. Oh, Gemma, nothing beats 3 bottles of $4 wine. That's bad. You're bad. Frankie, yes. Only a few seconds, my friend. I am about to go to bed. I could do a weird thing. Like, this could run for 8 hours. Like, I could just go to bed and leave the webcam on and you could keep chatting. And there could just be a chat thing running. Frank, did I see a $20 dare? I did not. What was that about? Where did you do a $20 dare? Yep, I missed that. So, oh God, I just flicked across Twitter and there's people talking about football. I'm in Melbourne where football's like a fucking religion and I've got no time for it. Yeah, Ace, if people are pressuring you, as hard as it can be, walking away from them is the best thing to do. All I can say, man, I don't know you, but I feel like you're doing the right thing. Anyone who pressures you, like, can you just have one drink? That's really shitty. That is really shitty, and I really don't like it. So yeah, dude, you are not the problem. If you say, I'm not going to drink, and that means not hanging out with those people, you aren't the problem. Those people are the problem. That's a really shitty thing for people to do. Like stupid. Someone pushes you to drink, knock them out. It's like, when people, like, I don't get hangovers because I don't drink that much. I will have a couple drinks either for a live stream or because think, this video might be funny if I have a couple drinks before I make it. Or I'll be with Mrs. Angry and we'll have cocktails. I've gotten into making cocktails. I really enjoy it. But I don't get, okay, I won't say I don't ever get shit-faced drunk because I have a couple of times got drunk to the throw-up point. But I don't get hangovers because I don't abuse it to that extent. I just don't do it. Batman, how much alcohol is one drink? That's, yeah. That is a very ambiguous thing. The medical measure of one standard drink, it obviously varies. Like I measure what I'm drinking, so I know how much I'm drinking. You know, a shot of some cognac brandy. A shot of that is about one standard drink, or maybe a bit more. Like a stripper, how much drinks do I drink a week? It varies, and it is a little bit hard to be sure how many standard drinks I have. Like on a big night, like the health authorities say you shouldn't have more than 4 standard drinks in a day. And like, okay, for this, I wouldn't have had more than 4 standard drinks, which is enough that I feel a little bit drunk, but I'm not legible. But some nights I might have, like, you know, maybe the equivalent of 8 standard drinks, which they say you're not meant to do, but I do occasionally. And I don't drink every night. I don't drink every day. I don't drink every night. Yeah, it varies. Like I try and drink on. Well, okay, sometimes I drink when I'm talking to you people, like tonight. Otherwise, I might have a drink on Friday night, Saturday night, not Sunday night because I got to get up for work on Monday. Even though, yes, okay, I am getting up for work tomorrow. That's why I didn't drink a lot, but it was probably the equivalent of 4 standard drinks tonight. I mixed a couple of things, probably 4 standard drinks. So yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. So I think, by the way, I am going to go to bed now, but we've had our usual melange of discussion here tonight. I think everyone's been really good. As someone pointed out, we didn't have any trolls. We had some diverse opinion, and I think we've had a good time. I've had a good time, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight and having a good thing. Yes, I have to pee too, Tara. That's one of the reasons I'm going. Yes, Joe, thank you, everyone. Hit the like button. We'll try and fool the YouTube algorithm into thinking I'm popular. Oh, okay, that's right. I remember you saying you were having an 11-day weekend, Frank. Yes, so this time next week, you'll have more time for live streams, which will be fun. So good night, everyone. Take care of yourselves. As always, I've enjoyed spending time with you. You're all awesome people. Yes, we're all free to go to the washrooms now. That's what I'm doing. I'm going off to take a leak right about now. So thank you all for dropping by. Hope to see you again soon. We'll see if I can make an end of week tiff. See if I can make it tomorrow night rather than lagging off till the weekend. We'll see how I go. Take care all. I hope to see you again soon. Look after yourselves, and I'll say bye now. And have